Good evening, it's 8 o'clock. I'm Sally Baudet, live from Johannesburg. In your headlines tonight, as Cheryl Zondi holds her ground after a second day of cross-examination in the rape trial of Timothy Omotoso, South Africans are asking if it's right to treat survivors this way in court. Julius Malema says he will act against Floyd Shivambu if he profited from his brother's involvement in VBS, but Malema says there's not a shred of evidence. And the Nugent Commission into SARS has recommended that the president fire the suspended tax boss. Well, I think as South Africans, we've all been very shocked by the intense cross-examination of Cheryl Zondi. Many of us speaking out on social media, condemning the hard line of the defence lawyer over the last 2 days. And the question, of course, for all of us is it right? Is it subjecting rape survivors to secondary victimisation? Well, I'm joined now from our Cape Town studio by Kathleen Day, who's director of the Rape Crisis Cape Town Trust. Good evening to you, Ms. Day. Thank you so much for joining us. I suppose the question I have, as a South African who's not sat through a rape trial before, this is shocking and appalling, their treatment, but is it par for the course?
I think all rape survivors do experience a degree of secondary trauma when they testify in court. There's no question about that. Every day there are rape survivors going through a similar process. I think you used the word intense. This cross-examination has been intense, and I think the magistrate has been quite good in pulling the defence attorney back at times.
Is this the only way to get to the truth? The defence attorney has a job to do. Cross-examinations are rigorous, they are badgering, they are tough. Is this the only approach that we can use to get to the truth, especially when it comes to rape survivors?
Well, I think the rape survivor is telling her version of events, and the defence attorney's job is to change that narrative if he can. If he can show that in some way the perpetrator felt that the rape survivor had consented, or if he can show inconsistencies in her story. And I think these are some of the tactics that are employed at times to try to do that. Because essentially a rape trial is a narrative, it's a story, it's his word against hers. And obviously they will bring in other forms of evidence if they can, physical evidence and so on, the prosecution. But the defence attorney has to do his job.
Cheryl Zondi seems very strong. Is that the normal demeanour for rape survivors?
Each rape survivor is definitely going to be different. She's had immense dignity on the stand, and I think what most rape survivors really need and appreciate is support. They need emotional support and they need practical advice. Most rape survivors will arrive in the court not knowing the layout of the court, not knowing the role of the different role players in the court, and not really knowing what's going to be required of them by the proceedings. And I think that uncertainty is the greatest thing that shakes rape survivors up. So at Rape Crisis, we provide support to rape survivors at the courts where we run a service, and that makes an incredible difference to the support they experience on the stand.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. That was Kathleen Day. She's director of the Rape Crisis Cape Town Trust, commenting there on the second day of a cross-examination. Well, let's look back at what happened today in court. Cheryl Zondi's cross-examination continued in the Eastern Cape High Court. And of course, our reporter Sandy McCowan has the details.
A strong and defiant Cheryl Zondi stood firm as Timothy Omotoso's attorney, Peter Doberman, continued with his grueling cross-examination.
You said okay, man.
Yes, I said okay.
You agreed to go with him in his white Lexus?
Yes. I wasn't going to run out of the house at night.
So when you realized this man had not changed, you must have realized that he's going to rape you again.
Yes, as I said before, I understood that at 19 I had managed to put myself in the exact same spot.
Many were outraged at Doberman's inappropriate questions, saying rape survivors who witnessed this trial will think twice about coming forward.
Sorry, I don't discuss my cases while in progress. Thank you.
Okay.
Have mercy on your child. Forgive.
Video clips were shown of Zondi's return to the church when she confronted Omotoso seeking an apology. Instead, she was told if she wanted to come back to the church, things would have to go back to the way they were.
I'm so grateful to God for that. I'm so happy to be here. So happy.
Zondi says at the church she was scared of the pastor, but Doberman again ripped her testimony to shreds, saying she must be a fantastic actress, as nowhere in the clip did she look terrified of what she knew would happen to her later. Sandy McCowan, Port Elizabeth.
And that cross-examination continues tomorrow. Moving on to other stories. Bring us the proof or stop tarnishing the EFF's image and that of its deputy president. So says Julius Malema, who's unequivocal that the party stands behind Floyd Shivambu. Shivambu's younger brother Brian's named in the VBS forensic report as having received over 16 million rand in gratuitous payments. Subsequent media reports allege Brian paid 10 million rand of that to his older brother, while over $1 million went to the EFF. Michael Apple was at the EFF briefing today.
The great bank heist, looking at how nearly 2 billion rand was looted from VBS Mutual Bank, has resulted in a series of media reports alleging the Shivambu brothers benefited from the scandal. To this, the deputy president of the Economic Freedom Fighters says,
"It's pure insanity. It's madness."
Floyd Shivambu is calling on journalists and media houses who can refute his denial to bring forward the evidence.
Be a patriot in South Africa and go to a police station and say, here's the evidence that Floyd Shivambu received 10 million from VBS. Go to the police station and report that. There will never be any such.
In the wake of the allegations, Shivambu was asked to present the EFF with his personal bank account statements dating back to 2014. There were various amounts transferred between the brothers, but according to the Red Berets, nothing close to 10 million rand.
The deputy president of the EFF, Floyd Shivambu, has taken the EFF leadership into confidence in relation to the VBS media claims, and we have no reason to doubt him.
The leader of the party is adamant that he's willing to act against his deputy if anyone can produce a shred of evidence.
In the absence of such, there's nothing we can do. Let there be prima facie evidence. There's nothing tangible. There's nothing I can touch which implicates the deputy president. So let me touch something.
Shivambu says he has no active directorship in any company. He says he cancelled them all when he took up his position as a member of parliament. Michael Apple, Johannesburg.
Meanwhile, Finance Minister Tito Mboweni has lashed out at auditors implicated in covering up the looting of nearly 2 billion rand from VBS Mutual Bank.
In this case, I must say that I think that we were failed by both the internal auditors, clearly in cahoots with management, and the external auditors. I can't give any sense of credit to the board subcommittee for audit and compliance because they seem to have been part of the heist as well. When you have a large auditing firm failing us in the manner in which that one has, it's an issue of serious concern.
The Nugent Commission of Inquiry has recommended that suspended SARS boss Tom Moyane be fired. A preliminary draft of the Commission's findings is currently with the President. The inquiry has also recommended that the appointment of a new commissioner be an open process rather than a decision made by the President. However, Moyane's lawyer Eric Mabuza says the hearing is biased and unlawful. The people of Zandspruit in Johannesburg say they've had enough of illegal electricity connections. They say they can no longer watch while their children are killed. According to residents, at least 3 children have died in less than a month from electrocution. Community members took to the streets today to demand that authorities deal with this matter urgently. As the protest escalated, officials moved in to cut off some of the illegal connections. And hours later, City of Johannesburg officials arrived to listen to the residents. But They say they want Mayor Herman Mashaba to come and hear them. They say he promised to prioritise their area during elections. We have international news up next, and the pressure increases on Saudi Arabia to explain the disappearance of a journalist while in the Saudi consulate in Turkey. And money and market news with Matteo.
Well, the local market in better territory today, pulled up by the banking stocks, and the rand also in positive territory.
Money news now with Matteo Kharipa. Evening, Matteo. Pick and Pay results are in. They're good, which is quite surprising given our recessionary times. Is this credit to a great strategy, or is it actually because of all the retrenchments, sort of July last year, I think it was?
I think it's one of two things, Sally. This is a company that has worked out what the problem was for them. They had to save a lot of money, and last year they took away about 10% of their staff at 3,500 voluntary severance packages, but also you have to wonder if everyone wanted to be out of a job at that particular time. But that seemed to have worked out for the store. The earnings up 6.7%, and this has helped them out in terms of also their operations. They've tightened the amount of money they spend on employees, but they also have outdone some of their retail competitors in ShopRite as well, who had weaker results earlier this year, because we do know South Africa is in a recession and consumers are tight on money. But now the second reason I was going to tell you about is that they also have a credit facility, and more than 100,000 people have now applied for that facility, and they've extended about more than 1 billion rand in terms of money that people can spend on groceries in the store. So that strategy has worked out for them. Also, Boxer Stores has performed quite well. We do know they sell their items at a much lower rate. But to be fair to Pick and Pay, they also had their pricing quite low compared to the 3.5% in terms of food inflation. Their increases in prices was at about 0.3%, which was quite fair. But I think most of the money they'd saved from those job cuts actually saved them this time around.
Looks like they might be recession-proof. Huh? Tell me, how have the markets looked today? Not a bad day, I believe.
No, not a bad day at all. Despite Pick and Pay being down on the market, Naspers had recovered from that 5% fall that we saw yesterday, and that saw the all share up more than 1% today. Industrials also strengthening. Financials helped by that stronger rand, up more than 2.5%. And in terms of miners, well, we saw gold go up close to 9%, and that sell-off ended today, and platinum up more than 1%, with resources also in marginal territory. And in commodity prices, the price of gold at $1,228 an ounce, and platinum in also marginal territory there, with Brent crude staying low at $80.67 a barrel. And in currencies, the rand firming up after weak US data there. It's at 14.18 rand against the dollar, after retail data in the US disappointed there. It's at 16.43 rand against the euro, and also firming up against the pound. A good time to travel at 18.69 rand.
Another good day for our currency. Always lovely to chat to you. Thank you so much. Matteo Kharipa there. To news from further afield, Saudi Arabia's Consul General in Istanbul has left Turkey for Riyadh. Mohammed Al-Otaibi left just hours before his residence was due to be searched by Turkish police. This in connection with the disappearance of journalist Jamal Khashoggi 2 weeks ago. Khashoggi, a US resident and leading critic of the Crown Prince, vanished after entering the Saudi consulate in Istanbul on October the 2nd. Now, Turkish officials say they believe he was murdered there and his body removed. Saudi authorities have strongly denied this, but some media sources indicate the Saudi government may soon release a report saying he was accidentally killed while being interrogated. We have Joel Guy at our Weather Centre. Evening, Joel. And then art that you can read with your hands. A new experience from a Kenyan artist. Stay with us. And here's Joel Guy in Cape Town, ready with the weather. How's it looking, Joel? Evening.
Good evening, Sally. Well, we have a cold front that has brought wintry weather into parts of the Eastern Cape and KwaZulu-Natal, and it's raining cats and dogs at the moment. We also have lots of cloud across the rest of the country, but it's going to stay dry in most areas tonight. Now, as we head into Wednesday, we are going to be seeing mostly cloudy skies and rainy weather over much of the Eastern Cape and KwaZulu-Natal, pushing northwards into Mpumalanga and southeastern Limpopo. We will be seeing quite a bit of high-level cloud over the western and southern areas. Then in the afternoon, it's going to become mostly sunny for much of western South Africa. It will stay persistently wet for much of KwaZulu-Natal and the Eastern Cape, and thunder showers are expected over the Mpumalanga Highveld, much of Limpopo, and maybe spilling into the northern areas of the Gauteng province. And it's going to stay fairly wet in the late evening hours for the eastern parts of South Africa. Now let's take it quickly closer to your part of the country. A dry one is focused on Wednesday for the Northern Cape. It's going to be warm to hot in most areas. Upington warming to around 31 degrees. It's going to be mostly sunny and pleasantly warm for much of the Western Cape. Rather mild, however, for Cape Town, warming to 23. Cooler as we go towards the south coast, where partly cloudy skies are expected. Then in the Eastern Cape, we are going to have pretty wet weather, chilly for much of the interior, with temperatures struggling to reach the mid and upper teens on Wednesday afternoon. Similar weather and afternoon temperatures for much of KwaZulu-Natal, where we could also see some thunderstorms over the northeastern areas. Rain and thunderstorms are forecast across Mpumalanga, Mbombela, managing a high of just around 19 degrees. It's going to be unsettled once again for the Limpopo province. Temperatures here lying in the lower to mid-30s in the afternoon. On the other hand, it's going to be sunny and warm to hot for the northwest, with highs in the upper 20s and lower 30s. The Free State should be partly cloudy and dry in most areas, but thunderstorms are possible around Harrismith. Gauteng will be largely dry. Thunderstorms, however, for Pretoria, warming to around 29 degrees. Now, quickly looking ahead to your Thursday, it's going to be mostly sunny and warm to hot for western South Africa. Just a few sprinkles of rain for KwaZulu-Natal and parts of Mpumalanga. We end the work week with light rain for the south coast. The rest of the country will be mostly sunny and warm to hot in most areas. That's all we had time for. Back to you, Sally.
Thank you so much, Joel, there in Cape Town. Finally to Kenya, where an artist wants to make her work accessible to everyone, even those who cannot see. Tina Benawira incorporates Braille into her paintings. Now, this allows the artworks to be experienced by people with visual impairment, so they almost read the art. The use of Braille matches her style, which employs text and many layers of paint to create a textured canvas. Recapping your top story this evening as Cheryl Zondi holds her ground after a second day of cross-examination in the rape trial of Timothy Omotoso. South Africans are asking tonight if it's right to treat survivors this way in court. From me and the team, it's a very good night.